You are watching Political Point Magazine. Where the right is right and the left, well, the left is always on the wrong side of history. Why? Because political minds want to know. So enjoy a conservative point of view. And let's talk pea soup. With tonight's top stories. A grand jury in Ferguson rules no indictment charges for Officer Wilson in the shooting death of Michael Brown. And riots spark out in Ferguson, but Obama calls for calm. Or does he? And also, in comes the race hustlers. The usual suspects, Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, sparking outrage and inciting more racial divide. We will talk about that. And also, Obama holds a meeting with so-called civil rights leaders to discuss Ferguson chaos. And also, out of this, after the police force got death threats, Wilson resigns. And did Obama violate the Constitution when he installed his executive actions? We will talk about that. All of this and more with you, the viewers, when we take it to the phones. But now, on this Monday, December 1st, I am your humble host, William Mitro. All right, thank you once again for tuning in. All right, my friends. Well, lots of stuff has happened, and it is pretty clear to me that no matter what type of justice ensues, that you will always have this racial divide, and you will always have these race hustlers like Al Sharpton, who is disgusting. You can't even call Al Sharpton a reverend. All right, he doesn't soothe the manner. He doesn't calm the mode and everything. He's not a healer. He's just and all of this. All right, now we have a situation that got pretty intense. All right, where we have another case where a black teenager got shot. And a lot of people don't realize this, but this is another self-defense case. All right, and as we will get into the details here, the prosecutor, the grand jury prosecutor, made the announcement last Thursday. All right, so as we take it to that, I want to make it perfectly clear what he goes through everything. All right, but the grand jury in Ferguson rules no indictment. Take a look at this.
To the family of Michael Brown. As I've said in the past, I know that regardless of the circumstances here, they lost a loved one to violence, and I know that the pain that accompanies such a loss knows no bounds. On August 9th, Michael Brown was shot and killed by police officer Darren Wilson. Within minutes, various accounts of the incident began appearing on social media, accounts filled with speculation and little, if any, solid, accurate information. Almost immediately, neighbors began gathering and anger began growing because of the various descriptions of what had happened and because of the underlying tension between the police department and a significant part of the neighborhood. The St. Louis County Police conducted an extensive investigation at the crime scene, at times under very trying circumstances, interrupted at least once by random gunfire. Beginning that day and continuing for the next 3 months, along with the agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation at the direction of Attorney General Eric Holder, located numerous individuals and gathered additional evidence and information. Fully aware of the unfounded but growing concern in some parts of our community that the investigation and review of this tragic death might not be full and fair, I decided immediately that all of the physical evidence gathered, all people claiming to have witnessed any part or all of the shooting, and any and all other related matters would be presented to the grand jury. Grand juries of 12 members of this community, selected by a judge in May of this year, long before this shooting occurred. I would like to briefly expand upon the unprecedented cooperation between the local and the federal authorities. When Attorney General Holder first announced the federal investigation just days after the shooting, he pledged that federal investigators would be working with local authorities as closely as possible at every step of the way and would follow the facts wherever they may take us. As General Holder and I both pledged, our separate investigations followed that trail of facts with no preconceived notion of where that journey would take us. Our only goal was that our investigation would be thorough and complete to give the grand jury, the Department of Justice, and ultimately the public all available evidence to make an informed decision. All evidence obtained by federal authorities was immediately shared with St. Louis County investigators. Likewise, all evidence gathered by St. Louis County Police was immediately shared with the federal investigators. Additionally, the Department of Justice conducted its own examination of all the physical evidence and performed its own autopsy. Another autopsy was performed at the request of the Brown family, and all of this information was also shared. Just as importantly, all testimony before the St. Louis County grand jury was immediately provided to the Department of Justice. So although the investigations are separate, both the local and the federal government have all of the same information and evidence. Our investigation and presentation of the evidence to the grand jury in St. Louis County has been completed. The most significant challenge encountered in this investigation has been the 24-hour news cycle and its insatiable appetite for something, for anything, to talk about, following closely behind with the nonstop rumors on social media. I recognize, of course, that the lack of accurate detail surrounding the shooting frustrates the media and the general public and helps breed suspicion among those already distrustful of the system. Yet those closely guarded details, especially about the physical evidence, give law enforcement a yardstick for measuring the truthfulness of witnesses. Eyewitness accounts must always be challenged and compared against the physical evidence. Many witnesses to the shooting of Michael Brown made statements inconsistent with other statements they made and also conflicting with the physical evidence. Some were completely refuted by the physical evidence. As an example, before the results of the private autopsy were released, witnesses on social media, during interviews with the media, and even during questioning by law enforcement, claimed that they saw Officer Wilson stand over Michael Brown and fire many rounds into his back. Others claimed that Officer Wilson shot Mr. Brown in the back as Mr. Brown was running away. However, once the autopsy findings were released showing that Michael Brown had not sustained any wound to the back of his body, no additional witnesses made such a claim, and several witnesses adjusted their stories in subsequent statements. Some even admitted that they did not witness the event at all, but merely repeated what they heard in the neighborhood or others or assumed had happened. Fortunately for the integrity of our investigation, Almost all initial witness interviews, including those of Officer Wilson, were recorded. The statements and the testimony of most of the witnesses were presented to the grand jury before the autopsy results were released by the media and before several media outlets published information and reports that they received from a D.C. government official. The jurors were therefore, prior to the time that released information going public and what followed in the news cycle, the jurors were able to have already assessed the credibility of the witnesses, including those witnesses whose statements and testimony remained consistent throughout every interview and were consistent with the physical evidence in this case. My two assistants began presenting to the grand jury on August 20th. The evidence was presented in an organized and orderly manner. The jurors gave us a schedule of when they could meet. All 12 jurors were present for every session, and all 12 jurors heard every word of testimony and examined every item of evidence. Beginning August 20th and continuing until today, the grand jury worked tirelessly to examine and re-examine all of the testimony of the witnesses and all of the physical evidence. They were extremely engaged in the process, asking questions of every witness, requesting specific witnesses, requesting specific information, and asking for certain physical evidence. They met on 25 separate days in the last 3 months, heard more than 70 hours of testimony from about 60 witnesses, and reviewed hours and hours of recordings of media and law enforcement interviews by many of the witnesses who testified. They heard from 3 medical examiners and experts on blood, DNA, toxicology, firearms, and drug analysis. They examined hundreds of photographs, some of which they asked be taken. They examined various pieces of physical evidence. They were instructed on the law and presented with 5 indictments ranging from murder in the first degree to involuntary manslaughter. Their burden was to determine, based upon all of the evidence, if probable cause exists to believe that a crime was committed and that Darren Wilson is the person who committed that crime. There is no question, of course, that Darren Wilson caused the death of Michael Brown by shooting him, but the inquiry does not end there. The law authorizes a law enforcement officer to use deadly force in certain situations. The law also allows all people to use deadly force to defend themselves in certain situations. So the grand jury considered whether Wilson was the initial aggressor in this case, or whether there was probable cause to believe that Darren Wilson was authorized as a law enforcement officer to use deadly force in this situation, or if he acted in self-defense. I detail this for 2 reasons. First, so that everyone will know that, as promised by me and Attorney General Holder, there was a full investigation and presentation of all evidence and appropriate instruction of law to the jury, to the grand jury. Second, as a caution to those in and out of the media who will pounce on a single sentence or a single witness and decide what should have happened in this case based on that tiny bit of information. The duty of the grand jury is to separate fact from fiction. After a full and impartial and critical examination of all the evidence in the law, and decide if that evidence supported the filing of any criminal charges against Darren Wilson. They accepted and completed this monumental responsibility in a conscientious and expeditious manner. It is important to note here and say again that they are the only people who have heard and examined every witness and every piece of evidence. They discussed and debated the evidence among themselves before arriving at their collective decision. After their exhaustive review of the evidence, the grand jury deliberated over 2 days, making their final decision. They determined that no probable cause exists to file any charge against Officer Wilson and returned a no true bill on each of the 5 indictments. The physical and scientific evidence examined by the grand jury, combined with the witness statements supported and substantiated by that physical evidence, tells the accurate and tragic story of what happened. A very general synopsis of the testimony and the physical evidence presented to the grand jury follows. Please note that, as I have promised, the evidence presented to the grand jury, with some exceptions, and the testimony of the witnesses called to the grand jury will be released at the conclusion of this statement. At approximately 11:45 a.m. on Saturday, the 9th of August, Ferguson Police Officer Darren Wilson was dispatched to the Northwinds apartment complex for an emergency involving a 2-month-old infant having trouble breathing. At approximately 11:53, while still at the Northwinds call, Wilson heard a radio broadcast for a stealing in progress at a market on West Florissant. The broadcast also included a brief description of the suspect, a black male wearing a white T-shirt who took a box of Swisher cigars. Other officers were dispatched to that store. Officer Wilson remained with the mother and the infant until EMS arrived to transport them to the hospital. Officer Wilson then left Northwinds complex in this Ferguson police vehicle, a Chevy Tahoe SUV, and drove west on Canfield towards West Florissant. An additional description of the stealing suspect was broadcast about that time, wearing a red hat, yellow socks, khaki shorts, and he was with another male. As Officer Wilson was attending to his emergency call on Northwinds, Michael Brown and a companion were in a local convenience store on West Florissant. Michael Brown's activity in that story was recorded by the store's security cameras. The video, often played following its release in August by the Ferguson Police Department, shows Michael Brown grabbing a handful of cigarillos and heading toward the exit without paying. As Michael Brown and his companion left the store, someone inside the store called the police. After crossing West Florissant, the two walked east on Canfield in the middle of the street, Mr. Brown directly behind his companion. As Officer Wilson continued west on Canfield, he encountered Michael Brown and his companion still walking in the middle of the street. As Wilson slowed or stopped as he reached Mr. Brown, he told them to move to the sidewalk. Words were exchanged, and they continued walking down the middle of the street. As they passed, Wilson observed that Michael Brown had cigarillos in his hand and was wearing a red hat and yellow socks. At approximately 12:02 p.m., Wilson radioed that he had two individuals on Canfield and needed assistance. Officer Wilson backed his vehicle at an angle, blocking their path and blocking the flow of traffic in both directions. Several cars approached from both east and west but were unable to pass the police vehicle. An altercation took place at the car with Officer Wilson seated inside the vehicle and Mr. Brown standing at the driver's window. During the altercation, 2 shots were fired by Officer Wilson while still inside the vehicle. Mr. Brown ran east on Canfield and Officer Wilson gave chase. Near the corner of Canfield and Copper Creek, Mr. Brown stopped and turned back towards Officer Wilson. Officer Wilson also stopped. As Michael Brown moved toward Officer Wilson, several more shots were fired by the officer, and Michael Brown was fatally wounded. Within seconds of the final shot, the assist car arrived. Less than 90 seconds passed between Officer Wilson's first contact with Michael Brown and his companion and the arrival of that assist car. During the investigation, many eyewitnesses were interviewed by various media outlets. Several others chose not to talk to the media, but contacted law enforcement directly. Witnesses were interviewed by local and federal law enforcement, sometimes together, sometimes separately, but all statements were provided to the other party. All previous statements of witnesses who testified before the grand jury were also presented to the grand jury, whether they were media interviews or whether they were interviews by the FBI or by the county police department. The statements of all witnesses, civilian, law enforcement, and experts, were challenged, of course, by other law enforcement, by the prosecutors, and by the grand jurors themselves. A common and highly effective method of challenging a statement is to compare it to the previous statements of the witness for consistency and to compare it with the physical evidence.
So I got that now. And we see that this, my friends, sparked the prosecutor in his explanation. He said that there were no indictment charges on the officer. And he explained the whole situation very, very, very it was explanational, and I got the full story out of that explanation. And It was a self-defense case. All right. Now, the evidence showed that it was Michael Brown who attacked the officer, in which the officer defended himself. And in self-defense cases, it's very hard to get an indictment. Now, but of course, after that announcement, there was several protests and riots that broke out. It's just, I saw protesters shaking a police car, vandalizing things, burning down businesses and whatnot. But and through all that, President Obama calls for calm. All right, President Obama calls for calm.
Either way was going to be subject of intense disagreement, not only in Ferguson, but across America. So I just want to say a few words suggesting how we might move forward. First and foremost, we are a nation built on the rule of law. And so we need to accept that this decision was the grand jury's to make. There are Americans who agree with it, and there are Americans who are deeply disappointed, even angry. It's an understandable reaction. But I join Michael's parents in asking anyone who protests this decision to do so peacefully. Let me repeat Michael's father's words. Hurting others or destroying property is not the answer. No matter what the grand jury decides, I do not want my son's death to be in vain. I want it to lead to incredible change, positive change, change that makes the St. Louis region better for everyone. Now, Michael Brown's parents have lost more than anyone. We should be honoring their wishes. I also appeal to the law enforcement officials in Ferguson and the region to show care and restraint in managing peaceful protests that may occur. Understand, our police officers put their lives on the line for us every single day. They've got a tough job to do to maintain public safety and hold accountable those who break the law. As they do their jobs in the coming days, they need to work with the community, not against the community, to distinguish the handful of people who may use the grand jury's decision as an excuse for violence, distinguish them from the vast majority who just want their voices heard around legitimate issues in terms of how communities and law enforcement interact. Finally, we need to recognize that the situation in Ferguson speaks to broader challenges that we still face as a nation. The fact is, in too many parts of this country, a deep distrust exists between law enforcement and communities of color. Some of this is the result of the legacy of racial discrimination in this country. And this is tragic because nobody needs good policing more than poor communities with higher crime rates. The good news is we know there are things we can do to help. And I've instructed Attorney General Holder to work with cities across the country to help build better relations between communities and law enforcement. That means working with law enforcement officials to make sure their ranks are representative of the communities they serve. We know that makes a difference. It means working to train officials so that law enforcement conducts itself in a way that is fair to everybody. It means enlisting the community actively on what should be everybody's goal, and that is to prevent crime. And there are good people on all sides of this debate, as well as in both Republican and Democratic parties, that are interested not only in lifting up best practices, because we know that there are communities who've been able to deal with this in an effective way, but also who are interested in working with this administration and local and state officials to start tackling much-needed criminal justice reform. It's hard to try to find better solutions, long-term solutions to this issue. There is inevitably going to be some negative reaction, and it'll make for good TV. But what we want to do is to make sure that we're also focusing on those who can offer the kind of real progress that we know is possible. That the vast majority of people in Ferguson, the St. Louis region, in Missouri, and around the country are looking for. And I want to be partners with those folks, and we need to lift up that kind of constructive dialogue that's taking place. All right?
No criminal charges, Mr. President.
Well, as we have seen that the riots sparked from that, and that is not the way to go. All right, now riots sparked out, and businesses got. You put yourself in a position where you protest like that. You put yourself in a position where you become the criminal. All right, it's just ludicrous, my friends. Okay, now I will take this one call right now, but we have to move up the situation. Hello, you're on the air. Hold on 1 second. All right. Hello, you're on the air. What's on your political mind?
Here saying, listen, we overstepped our boundaries. We wished that the Sergeant at Arms equipped us with easier weaponry. I don't want to call it weaponry. Easier detainable ability of response team on a human being that's acting erratical. So therefore, the taser was put in effect. Then, Ithaca Department was equipped with taser guns. Why wasn't his Sergeant of Arms, okay, that was like during the closeout of the 89-90, why wasn't he, because this went coast to coast, okay? Years ago, you'd show up, you'd have a person in psychotic, and they just shoot you. Okay, that was proven in Chicago. His name is Terrence Garahan. He worked for the Mental Health Department, Tompkins County Mental Health Department. The officer was Officer Scaglione, and the cop that died was Padula, Michael A. Padula. Since then, they went on 60 Minutes. They said, we need more sane psychological response teams to these showing up with a weapon, and the only thing equipped with a weapon and kill, okay? So then they came out with the tasers. Tasers were not on the market when this happened in Ithaca, New York. So then we all thought that cops were supposed to be equipped with tasers. So I'm looking at this Mr. Wilson. I'm saying, why didn't the Sergeant of Arms send them out with pepper spray and tasers to an 18-year-old getting high, stealing cigars with no weaponry on him, ends up dead in a squad car instead of waiting for backup, instead of being properly trained from what Ithaca, New York has done for the world, especially Professor Garahan. Okay? I spent 28 years with Terry Garahan. We thought the most sane, civilized ways of detaining a human being, okay? So this was already known to have tasers in effect as a law. So after this, why didn't Mr. Wilson stand up and say, well, I wasn't equipped with a taser because my sergeant at arms never sent me out the door with a taser. Yes, I shot him. That's the only thing I had on me to defend myself. This guy's like pleading the Fifth Amendment, trying to hide behind a bureaucracy, okay? At the same time, he was a punk. Michael was a punk. At the same time, I don't care who you are. The last thing Garahan and I wanted was knockout darts, like Wild Kingdom. So the worst you do is you get knocked out for 15 minutes and they obtain you, okay? This is fact, okay? Out of Ithaca, New York, this went on 60 minutes. Why wasn't his sergeant at arms sending we need the law so they all have tasers and same civilized ways of apprehending a human being that's high on drugs or straight, whatever, coming right at you, instead of a bullet, Will. It was done out of this town. It was done out of Ithaca, New York, over the Padula case, the taser law. We need a Michael taser law there. We need a taser law.
Look, I didn't see any riots spark out.
Oh, okay.
After
So then
that.
people are apprehended because they'll riot at anything watching war. They all want the Chinese restaurants, the auto zones. So then they take advantage, okay? They just want to jump in and kill at this point, okay? Because they're hungry, because there's no money, okay?
Let me show you
There's
something.
No money.
Let me
People
show you.
say,
Let
"Hey,
me show
come
you
on in
something.
my restaurant, I'll hire you anymore.
Let me show you something. Okay. Now
Sure.
during the riots in Ferguson. Okay.
Okay.
Michael
yeah,
Brown.
burned down the whole town.
Listen. Let me show you something. Let me show you a clip here. All right. Now, during the riots, Michael Brown's stepfather, okay, was
Michael Brown's father said,
sparking
out
this.
of enemy?
Listen. Watch.
Really hesitate to
Watch your screen. Watch your screen. All right.
watching, rolling.
Take a look. I'm rolling it.
Take
okay?
one.
Okay. Here we go. All right. Hold up.
Burn it, burn it, burn.
Okay. He was in spark. He kept on saying, burn it, burn it, burn it.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He wanted to. He was anxiety at the time and needed psychiatric help even before that. Okay, so he went to the streets. He martial riot, not knowing what his son exactly did. So in the same time, they all gathered and gained in his essence. But two wrongs never make a right. Okay. Two wrongs, violence will never win a situation. Al Sharpsons will tell you that. There's many. Two wrongs never make a right. So in the midst of the people that really cared, lit a candle, with some groaned. That's all I can tell you. Because no matter what, people are going to side and they're going to want to kill. They're going to want to mutilate. And after they get done doing that, then reality sets in.
Here's another picture that here's another picture that I am totally appalled at. And that's the
I did like that, okay? Since the cops didn't have pepper spray, 50-millimeter projectiles, and knockout darts and tasers. Here's another thing that I did want to say: stop, drop, and don't shoot. That was the very smartest, sanest thing.
No,
they
that's
could
not.
come
That's
up
not.
with.
No, that's a shot at not only the Ferguson Police Department but all police departments. That's not right.
Correct.
Okay. That's
Correct.
not right. Okay. The
most
football institution
heard out
should
of
not
that.
get involved in politics like that. Okay,
Yeah.
it's totally wrong. Okay, it sends
Right.
the wrong message. It's
Why
also
wasn't this topic with the
also a stab at
Didn't
the
he come up
it's
with
also a stab at the
plan?
black community. Okay,
Well,
it's
any community, okay? Debbie was white.
yeah. Okay, it's
And
not
they
right.
didn't
my
want to
friend.
do that. They felt
Okay.
guilty about killing her, okay?
It's not right, my friend.
Don't walk away with murder and then plead the Fifth Amendment, hide between... hide
Wilson
behind the
didn't plead
department,
the
okay?
Fifth. Wilson
So
didn't
that guy
plead the
was a
Fifth.
coward and saying,
Okay.
I wasn't
But-
equipped with backup
Wilson didn't plead the Fifth.
prehension tools such as a taser.
Wilson didn't plead the Fifth. Okay.
No,
But-
I know he didn't plead the Fifth.
But
He
let me-
said he'd kill and kill again.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. That's not true. That's
He
not
said-
true. That's
he-
not
he
true.
said if he
You
had to do
you
it
heard
again,
you
he'd do
heard
it,
the
right?
you heard the full
You're right.
story from the prosecutor. Okay.
Okay, George Stephanopoulos.
You heard the full story from the prosecutor, and
Okay.
and several of the witnesses, mind you, black witnesses, okay, had contradictory stories, okay, as to what happened, all right, but Wilson was defending himself, all right.
He was
But
defending himself.
unfortunately, we
Hey,
have.
this happened. I wasn't equipped.
But
with proper equipment.
unfortunately, we have race hustlers out there like Al
Wasn't
Sharpton,
equipped with proper
like-
equipment.
like Al Sharpton,
I have a taser
who say
wait for backup, okay?
who say things like this. All right, take a look at this. This is Al Sharpton at a church service
What was
on Sunday. All right, on
Oh,
Sunday. Take a look at this. Okay, take a look.
You don't judge the fight on one round. Even if we get knocked down, we get up and go to the corner and come out fighting the next round. You won the first round, Mr. Prosecutor, but don't cut your gloves off, because the fight's not over. Justice will come to Ferguson.
With all due respect, justice
Now,
already
there
has
was-
come.
What about the kid that was 12 years old? The guy calls 911. Hey, I got a gun. I don't know.
That
if
was
the-
a self-defense
Not-
thing. That was a
and-
self-defense
and
thing,
they show
and
up
and
and kill a
Trayvon
12-year-old
Martin,
when
Trayvon
the
Martin
call-
attacked the guy. Trayvon Martin attacked the guy. Okay, that was a
Oh,
self-defense.
that's another
thing.
one.
That was a self-defense thing.
Okay,
Okay.
cops should be equipped with tasers, Will.
They are.
No, apparently not. Michael Brown's dead, dude. What about the 12-year-old? What about a 12-year-old, okay? I heard 911. Can I help you?
Look,
I see a 12-year-old pointing
93%.
I don't know if it's real or
Look,
not.
93% of the
Right away.
93% of the blacks that are shot and killed are killed by other blacks. Okay? And it's got to stop. There's a problem within the black community when you have black people committing crimes and just killing themselves. You know, it's
Because they don't give any of the laboring class any effort or work. They shove them off. 50% of New York City high-rises and people don't live in the United States of America and don't even pay taxes. That was on Bill Moore here this week. They don't care about the working development. They don't care about the social society. Blacks, whites, Hispanics, Jewish, Indians. 50% they don't care about. And they come here out of a different country. They're living across in the park down there. What's the New York City park there? Worried about the shadow in Central Park
Central Park.
blocking the view, and it's $37 million a year in high-rise fees, and they don't pay. They escape $275,000 a unit in a 100-unit building per building, and they come here and they escape because they're not from the United States of America. That's correct. That was on Bill Moyers.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well-
Another thing I wanted to say is the U.S. economy, okay? The U.S., I realize that Eisenhower said government food. Government doesn't hand out any food to the United States. it comes out of equity, and then they raise the prices. So here we are, bear-strucking on meat supplies, we're vegetables, and the prices are getting so high. There's no regulatory committee, and they give vegetables are selling to Putin and Kim Lee-Woo. That was also known, and they stripped America. So America should be able to come up with regulations no greater than 20% of America-made stuff, America-grown stuff on this American soil.
Political.
It's the Americans, American oil on American soil. And if we're going to war, use their resources, use their trees, use Afghan trees, use Afghan metal, Afghan goats, Afghan cheese, Afghan bread. Whenever we go to war, we filch our commodities, we filch our resources here in the United States of America.
As in, when we're fighting terrorists, we got to attack them where they are so we don't have to fight them here at home. We need more troops over there to attack the terrorists.
Okay, you want more troops over there to attack the terrorists?
Yep.
Then they're going to pay us for it. They're going to use their economical dollar system. They're going to gas our planes. They're going to build their weaponry specs on their soil. They're going to use their wood and metal. They're going to feed out of those goats, those farmers. We're stripped, okay? It's United States stripped. We should not export no greater than 20% of what is made in the United States of America should stay in America and for American people at this point.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it goes worse. And then what about the handicap? This is after FICA, Social Security, okay? That's coast to coast. You know, if you die, Social Security only pays $250 coast to coast.
What?
So if you're handicapped, you pay a full premium for the Medicare. You're stuck on Medicaid and SSI. They want you on a job. They're going to take every $3, they're going to take $1 at a minimum wage job. So least amount of paid, corporate gains with no taxes. What did you think of Cuomo's thing? No sales tax, no taxes, bringing all these corporate entities, and they're not even from the United States of America, using America, stripping all its trees, all its metal, all the groceries. There's no regulation here. There's no saying, hey, that pipeline I want to talk to you about. They were so worried about how much it's going to make outside the America and dwelling in America, how much they're going to make around the world that America's ever going to see out of it. That's a perfect example. So in December, the Congress, what they voted in, the president, it's all a failure. It's all a failure. I love civil rights. I love Barack. He pulled up by the house. He knows where I live. I know those people. But he also, dollar and cent, went to the corporate investors into the White House. The corporate investors that you don't see, the global corporate investors, Republicans and Democrats side with for profit gain, on tax dollars included. Will, I got to go.
All right. Well, thank you for your call.
It's 8:20.
Thank you for your call. All right, now. All right, my friends, I want to go into something that's, I want to go into something into this, and I'm going to put it in my Political Point magazine's political point of vision. All right. Now, there is the question now of President Barack Obama's executive actions. All right. Now, his most recent one was on immigration, but there's now evidence that maybe he violated the Constitution in doing some of this. All right. we all remember now. Okay, when
Representatives allowed that kind of bill a simple yes or no vote, they would have passed with support from both parties. And today it would be the law. A year in which the only thing standing in the way of that bipartisan bill and my desk so that I can sign that bill, the only thing that's been standing in the way is a simple yes or no vote in the House of Representatives.
Sorry about that, but now a simple yes or no vote in the House of Representatives. Really now, but it appears that we have evidence that now when Obama got up there and said that he was going to take executive action, we now have evidence now that what he did may be unconstitutional because of what he did, what he said before. Okay, was what he believed that he didn't have the authority to do all that he said. Okay, but anyhow, okay, so there's a bunch of stuff here, okay, that we now can say for sure. All right, but I want to show you a few things that President Barack Obama has said. Okay, or Barack Obama had, yeah. Okay, now by taking this executive action, all right. Now I want to show you something that President Obama has said, okay, before. All right, take a look at this. All right, right here. Okay, here it is. He believed that. Okay, right here.
The problem is that, I'm the President of the United States. I'm not the Emperor of the United States. My job is to execute laws that are passed. The easy way out is to try to yell and pretend like I can do something by violating our laws. The notion that I can just suspend deportations through executive order, that's just not the case.
Just not the case. But then look at what he did in his executive order. Okay, a couple weeks ago. Okay, when he got out there and said that we're not gonna deport you. Yeah, we're not gonna deport you. Really? Now, my friends. Okay. Does he even listen to what he has said before? I don't think so. All right, because now it appears that Barack Obama really just has not had the gumption to go through with what he originally believed. So he's violating the Constitution with all of this. Okay. Now, so I'll take this call here. All right. Hello, you're on the air. What's on your political mind?
Yeah, it definitely seems like the president has reversed himself there from the clip you just showed. That here he clearly said that he couldn't do it by executive order. Now he's all of a sudden emperor.
He's emperor of the United States now.
But in the bigger picture, what do you think about this influx of immigration? I'm kind of for that we should be kind to people trying to move here, but shouldn't they try to make Mexico better? Try to I know there's a lot of corruption and poverty in Mexico. Shouldn't they, like we did during the revolution, stay and fight to make it better?
Well, we should try to make it better, but I mean like the Mexicans, which instead of trying to seek a better life here, stay and make their own country better. Oh, well, Well, yeah. Oh yeah, I think that would be right. But the thing is, the Mexican authorities, and the Mexican president are actually encouraging their citizens to cross the border and break our laws.
Oh.
Yeah.
Kind of like, is it kind of like back when Cuba sent, like, they would free the prisoners and then ship them all over here to?
I don't know. Not really quite like that, but they even had they showed their citizens in Mexico a DVD on how to break our laws and cross the border.
Really?
Yeah. This was
Oh my goodness.
yeah. So it's not really cool.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, I just wanted to comment on that. I'm kind of in the middle. I kind of like to see that that we support people here for freedom and all that, but they should do it through legal means.
Well, there's another thing. There's another thing also as well. That in Obama's executive order, he stated that now that we won't deport the people, that cross illegally. Okay, so he's for stop and release, catch and release, whatever, whatnot. But he won't stop them. He won't deport them. But then there was something in that executive order that also said that they wouldn't be allowed to get like benefits like Obamacare and stuff like that, and Medicare and Medicaid and stuff. But now there's evidence that has just arose that we found out that the ones that are here now are already getting the benefits of free health care.
Oh my God! It's
Yeah,
like we have no problems of our own.
Yeah, and free treatment.
People in Mexico to stay and try to fight to make their own country better.
Yeah.
We had that 200 years ago with the English, and we took care of business. You know what I'm saying?
They're getting the free benefits here, and we have to pay. That's just not right.
No doubt. Well, carry on. Thank you for.
Yep. Thank you for your call. All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. And my friends, well, now I want to take you to the last words of the night. Well, I'll take this one call. Okay. Hello, you're on the air. What's on your political mind?
Hey, I like that guy. But it's not only Mexico trying to get here. What we have is we have almost, we have 3/4 of the population of the globe coming to United States schools. They're here under a visa. They apply for a green card. They're not allowed to work at McDonald's, yet they pay the schools. And out of paying for the college in the United States of America, they're not allowed to go out and work at McDonald's. They get married into Americans a lot. That's called a green card relationship and to citizenship.
Yes, but then they overstay their visas and.
What happens is they don't want to leave after being so much loved here.
No.
And 66% of the colleges for the funding, goes to faculty and staff.
Well, my friend, I hate
So then we have Mexico, which have, I told you this many times, they have pipes made out of gold. They have $1 trillion downtown Mexico.
Okay, well, I hate to cut you.
Border,
Yes.
and then they don't want to. Mexico, as a government, from the corporation developments that pay, including
Yes,
the White
well-
House staff, don't want to pay a Social Security premium.
Yes, well, I hate to cut you short, but I get.
Unemployment.
Yes,
Don't want to. Don't.
I hate to cut you short, but I gotta get to the last words for the night.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, you
okay,
know, they can't all
yeah.
come.
Yes, well, thank you for your call, your thoughts, okay. But now my last words for the night come from John Stossel, and try this with your kids. All right, now.
Coming up, the Tiger Mom.
Okay, take a look. Take a look. Here we go. All right.
Eat 100 marshmallows, I'll be filled up.
Every kid's a winner. That sounds nice, but some people call that
The wussification of America.
The wussification of America. We are wimpy.
Whoops, sorry. That's not the one I wanted to emulate there. But anyhow, they have a demonstration. But but try doing this with your kids. Delayed gratification.
You can either wait, and I'll give you another one if you wait, or you can eat it now.
It smells yummy. It smells really good.
So can he stand to wait to eat it? This is an experiment that's been tried in many forms with many kids, but the idea is always the same. Test whether a child will eat the candy now or get twice as much if he can wait 15 minutes. As you see here, most kids cannot wait. Only about a third were able to delay, often distracting themselves by looking away. But about a third were able to wait 15 minutes
How'd you do?
and earn the extra candy.
You wanted to eat it, didn't you? Yeah. So did I tell you I'd give you another one? Okay, now you can have both.
The first group of kids
That's what we should do. That's called delayed gratification, my friends. And we thank you for watching Political Point, where the right is right and the left is always on the wrong side of history. All right. Follow me on Twitter at William Mitro 2. And also catch us on YouTube